pictures for us. So if you just want to smile big and hold tight, and we're going to have some folks joining us here in just a moment.
All right, all set.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mayor Woody Washam, and it's a pleasure to be with you on August the 2nd. My goodness, we're in August already. This summer has flown, and it's hot. I think all of you would agree. It is a hot summer period of time here that we're dealing with, but it is August. So it's a beautiful day, and we look forward to a great, very informative meeting. We felt like it was important to highlight several things this morning as we move into it. And I'm going to keep my remarks short because we have lots of information to share with you. So first of all, I know that everyone knows that this thing called COVID has sort of reared its ugly head once more for us. None of us are happy about that, but you know, I know that Gibby Harris, our Mecklenburg County medical director, was hoping she could sort of maybe not be as a frequent visitor or have to be as a frequent visitor with us here, but anyway, she does a good job in updating us, and unfortunately, we're still in the need of updates, Gibby, in order to make sure that we're doing the right thing here in our town and throughout our region to stay safe. So I'm going to turn to you first and ask you to give us a little update on the COVID situation as it exists today, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I am pleased to be here again this morning. Happy to come anytime you'd need me to. I'm sorry to come for this particular reason because, as we mentioned earlier when we were just chatting, is I think we're all hoping that COVID was on the downward trend, and we were seeing really good numbers there for a while. And unfortunately, that has shifted fairly quickly. The Delta variant is creating challenges for us across the county, across the state, across the country, across the world. It's just a very, very infectious variant. It spreads very quickly. What happens is this particular variant multiplies quickly in the body. So once someone's infected, they become infectious very quickly, and that's just allowing this to spread quickly. It is over 80% of what we're seeing in our communities right now. So it is the predominant variant that happened very quickly as well. And what we're seeing, as folks are aware, I think, is we are seeing breakthrough cases with this variant. We're seeing people who are fully vaccinated becoming infected, which is not uncommon for a vaccine and a virus. We see that with the flu sometimes. These viruses, nothing's 100%, right? But what we are seeing is for those folks who are fully vaccinated, who do become infected, very mild symptoms, sometimes asymptomatic completely. Very few. I saw some data this morning that said that over 99% of the folks who are being hospitalized with COVID are not vaccinated. Close to 99% of the folks who are dying from this disease are not vaccinated. So the vaccines are working. They're unfortunately just not 100%. And like I said, nothing is 100%. So we are seeing improvements because of the vaccine, and we need more people vaccinated. In Mecklenburg County, only about 52% of our population is partially vaccinated and 48% fully vaccinated. We're away from where we need to be. The other point that I will make is that unfortunately, we do have a part of our population that can't be vaccinated, and that's our children. And so for us as adults, and even our 12 and up, we need to be vaccinated so we can help protect those that can't be. Just a quick situational update for Mecklenburg County. Based on the CDC metrics, we are back in the red. So we are considered a county that is at high risk of transmission of this virus at this point in time. Over the past several weeks, over 50% of our new cases are in individuals between the ages of 18 and 39. That's a big shift for us. We obviously very early on saw our elderly population most impacted by this, but we are seeing a lot of individuals who are younger being hospitalized. We are seeing most of our cases, as I said, in that population. And that population is the least vaccinated in our community of those that can be vaccinated. So again, a need for us to do a better job of getting folks vaccinated. We're up to an average of 288 cases a day. That's up from the last 14 days. We're up to 127 individuals in the hospital. That's up as well. And unfortunately, our percent positivity rate is up to 11%. And if you'll remember, at one point, we were just a little bit before 2%. So again, some significant changes there. We did have some new CDC guidance that came out. The CDC guidance is that everyone should be masking when they're in public, regardless of vaccination status. That has created a lot of conversation in our communities. People are upset that if they're vaccinated, which we've asked them to do, why should they have to wear a mask? There are a couple of reasons for that. One is this variant is so infectious that if you're around other people who are unvaccinated and who are infected, you may become infected, number one. Even with mild symptoms, you still may become infectious. So you may be able to infect other people. So again, just protecting everyone, the best thing we can do right now is get vaccinated. And the second best thing is to wear a mask when you're in public. The governor's order.
Could I ask you one thing as it
Sure.
relates to vaccinations? Where do people get vaccinations these days?
There are a number of different places where you can get. Every CVS pharmacy, every Walgreens has vaccine available. And I went online a couple of times this weekend to look, and all of them have appointments available. Plus they take walk-ins. In addition to that, StarMed provides vaccine at a number of different locations. They have one location on Tuskegee, as well as several others. That's on our website. And then we continue to provide pop-up clinics in the community, as do both of our healthcare systems. So we are making sure that there are opportunities for people to get vaccinated in that way. And that's also listed on our website. And then lastly, we are continuing to do vaccines for homebound individuals. If there is someone who just is having trouble getting out of the house, all they have to do is either call our hotline or go on the website. We will come to their home, we will vaccinate. And if they have other people in the home with them, we'll vaccinate them as well. And lastly, as we're doing canvassing in the community, just providing information and encouraging people to get vaccinated, we are making sure that we have staff in that general area. So if those canvassers come across somebody who's willing to be vaccinated, we'll drive over and vaccinate them on the spot. That's called our Doses to Door program. So there are a number of different ways. And then lastly, we know we're getting ready to start school again, and we've got children who need to be vaccinated with their school vaccines. So we are going to be doing a number of clinics over the next couple of weeks, actually the next couple of months, to get those children vaccinated. But we are adding COVID to those vaccines availability, and we'll vaccinate whoever comes in to any of those clinics as well. So there's lots of opportunity to get vaccinated in the community. Not having access shouldn't be what keeps you from getting vaccinated.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, I'll just mention the governor's executive order that he put into place on Friday. He has taken away any of the masking requirements. The state continues to strongly recommend that people wear masks in public, but there's no requirements in the executive order at this point. The governor is putting in place a program where state employees are being asked to be vaccinated, and if they're not vaccinated, being tested once a week to make sure that they're not bringing COVID back into the office setting or in any time when they interface with the public. So those are just a couple of things that are going on right now. I've been asked multiple times if we're going to implement another mask mandate in Mecklenburg County. I don't think that's going to happen. We are having a policy group meeting today, and we'll be having conversations about this. But I think right now what we're focused on is encouraging people to get vaccinated. That's number one. More people vaccinated, less virus in the community. And number two is wearing masks, especially when you're around people you don't know. And if they're not wearing a mask, the safe thing to do is wear a mask.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your input and suggestions and direction at this particular point in time. Let's stop this thing in its tracks, and we can't be quite as open as we would like to be and as we were being. So we've got to adhere to the rules really at this point. So thank you, Gibby, for your suggestions. She will be staying on the line. It may come up as we get into our session with our friends over at CMS here in just a little bit. So she'll be there to help with that. So thank you. Moving right along. First of all, let me introduce our elected officials that are out there. I'm very proud to say that all 5 of our town commissioners are with us today. That would include Commissioner Bilodeau, Commissioner Duke, Commissioner Miltick, Commissioner Sisson, and Commissioner Ross. And thank you folks for being a part of this very, very important session of our coffee chat this morning. And if you have anything you'd like to add or any questions you'd like to ask, just let me know or speak up, and we're happy to have your input. Also, we've got some other elected officials out there. Representative John Bradford is with us today. Thank you, John, for being present. He says they're in the budget's moving along there in Raleigh, and that hopefully we'll get a good finalization here in the next weeks ahead. So thank you, John. I'm sure we got some county commissioners as well. I do know that Commissioner Pat Cotham is, she texted me last night. She's out today. She's having knee replacement. So say a special prayer for Commissioner Pat, and she's also very faithful to be a part of this meeting every month. So if we've got others, shoot me a note or put something in the chat. I'll be happy to recognize others that are with us. We appreciate the support from our county commissioners. Now with that, we're going to move to some town updates, which I think are important. You won't have a session like this, either coffee chat or connecting Cornelius, that doesn't talk about transportation. Transportation is a very, very high priority of all of our citizens, and we are working very hard. We've had some good meetings. We're working very hard to move this along and get our road projects back in gear and get them moving. As Commissioner Bilodeau was saying the other day, the best thing that we can see is orange barrels. Well, folks, we hope they're coming sooner than later, and we think they are. So with that, I'm going to turn to our transportation expert in town, our Deputy Town Manager, Wayne Heron, for an update. So thank you, Wayne, for being here.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As the Mayor said, everybody knows that traffic is an issue we have here in Cornelius, and we want to take every opportunity to keep everyone updated. A lot is going on. I'm not going to have a slideshow for you today, and I'll be brief, but I do want to remind everybody that one good thing that we continue to promote is that we have 7 funded projects through NCDOT. And for a community our size, that is phenomenal. But as Mayor Pro Tem Bilodeau has said, we really can't see the benefit if we don't get started, if we don't see those orange barrels and we don't get construction underway. We were a little concerned that 4 of our big projects, the Davidson Street at NC 115, Catawba at 21, Torrance Chapel, and North Cross all slid back 1 year in the DOT documents. Our elected officials have been right on that, talking to key officials in the House, the Senate, DOT board members, And we are confident that even though the written schedule has moved a year to 2023, those projects still have right-of-way ongoing. And that is great. That keeps the project moving. We're hopeful that utilities can be relocated in a very timely manner. And what we've been assured is, since the funding is there, if the right-of-way and utilities move forward in a positive manner, we can still start construction possibly in 2022. So that's next year. So we are very hopeful. We are very confident. And our elected officials are doing everything possible to stay in contact with those in Raleigh that are needed to keep these projects moving. Of course, the one biggie, West Catawba. Right now it's scheduled for 2025, but we are so fortunate that they are working on the right-of-way now as we speak. So once the right-of-way and the utilities move, again, we've been insured since funding is in place, it can move up. So we are crossing our fingers that it will continue to move up in schedule, and we can provide the necessary relief that our citizens need on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I want to keep it brief today, and Mayor, as time goes on, be glad to answer any questions.
I don't know if there's any questions out there. I will say that, you know, it's a really good sign to us that the right-of-way acquisition is in process. That means they're serious. They're not out there buying right-of-way, you know, for a road they're not going to build. So it's getting real for us as it relates to West Catawba and really all of our other projects. We're very optimistic and, you know, not being naive about it. We're doing all we can to pound the drum and make sure we're making the right contacts in Raleigh and locally. We're actually meeting with some of the North Carolina Department of Transportation board members as well. That happened this past week, and we've had some good meetings, and they get it as well. So we are not sitting quietly. Commissioner Bilodeau, do you have anything to add, or Commissioner Miltick?
No, I think you covered it well for now. I'm anxious to hear the remainder of the topics.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything, Dr. Miltick?
Yeah, I think if we can speed up right-of-way acquisition, then that'll help get this construction started sooner.
Great. Thank you, sir. The next item on our agenda is Parks and Rec. We're going to give them a longer segment as we move through the year, but right now I wanted you to have an update. We're in the heat of our summer activities, and Troy Fitzsimmons, our great parks director, is going to give you an update as to what's going on out there in the world of Cornelius Park and Rec. And so I'm looking forward to that. Troy, if you'll also talk a little bit, since we're getting so close to this transition of our arts programs to Kane Center, if you'll touch on that as well. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, and welcome everyone this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to get a couple of minutes to talk about what's going on in Parks and Recreation. I believe Danny's going to be pulling up one slide here just to kind of go through what we have coming up, but this summer has been extremely busy for us. So we held a slew of summer camps, hundreds of them, and they're about 90% or so full. There's really nothing open right now except for a handful of day camp slots, 1 or 2 art camp slots, and 1 or 2 summer sport camp slots, but still room. We're still going on for 2 more weeks. So if you have kids interested, please sign up. You can go to cornelius.org and the Parks and Recreation Department. Speaking of Parks and Recreation Department, we have changed our name officially. We used to be Parks, Arts, Recreation, and Culture, but Mayor, as you alluded to, with the upcoming Kane Center and transitioning of all arts programming to them, it was the right opportunity to rename the department. So going back to our past, when the department started, we started as Parks and Recreation. So we are officially again Cornelius Parks and Recreation. So we look forward to providing exceptional parks, greenways, and community experiences. Speaking of those community experiences, up on the screen are the events, larger events that we have coming up in the near future. So August 14th, we have a Gaga Ball tournament. If nobody knows what Gaga Ball is, that's fine. A lot of people don't. I didn't when I first heard it. In essence, it's dodgeball. It's a version of dodgeball played in an octagon area where kids knock each other out. August 21, we'll have Back to School Bash right out here behind Town Hall in the lawn. That'll be both a little bit of music, a couple of vendors, and a movie. September 11th, hard to believe, 20 years since 9/11 happened, and we'll be remembering that on September 11th at 8 a.m. out at the Cornelius Fire Department, right out back here in downtown. On September 18th, we have a brand new event, Praise in the Park, that the Park Department will be sponsoring. This is run through Ms. Tanya Rivens and her organization. We look forward to having that event out there. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. at Smithville Park again. Outdoor cinemas continue. September 24th, we'll have a movie out at Robbins Park. That movie is still to be determined which one we're going to show, but it will definitely be family oriented. Walk returns after a bit of a hiatus, along with a lot of these events due to COVID, on September 25th in downtown from 2 to 8. 21st All-American Dog Show, very popular event at Robbins Park, returns on October 2nd, 3 to 6. National Night Out that we work with Cornelius PD on is October 5th from 6 to 8 at Bailey. We bring back Hooked on Cornelius, a great event for kids to learn how to fish. We work with Lake Norman wildlife conservationists on that at the Upper Pond at Robbins Park. That will be held October 9th at 10. And then finally, at least through October, I'm not getting into November yet, that's still a ways off, but we culminate with the 9th annual Laketoberfest, which is typically a couple of different bands, along with 14 to 15 microbrewers and wineries from the area coming on in. And it's a great time, and it's about as big as Symphony. So we could get several thousand folks out there. But that is what is coming back. As everybody knows, last year, a lot of this ended up having to go virtual and or canceled altogether. So we look forward to be able to offering this. And of course, we take a look at all the latest NCDHHS guidelines to make sure that our events are compliant with the guidelines in place at that time. And Mayor, one other thing, fall sports is going on as well. So if your child is interested in any sport, baseball, football, soccer, you name it, go to our website, cornelius.org, click on the Parks and Recreation Department, and there will be a slew of our partners there where you can click to register your child for this fall. And Mayor, that concludes my report. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Troy. Let's make it clear to folks that want to sign up for the arts programs going forward. How do they do that, Troy?
Yeah, so they can go to canecenter.org, or as I mentioned, they can still go to our website, and we do have a hyperlink to get them over there so that they can register, much like we do with all of our other partners. So one of two ways.
Great. Thanks for clearing that up. We appreciate
you got
that. Jim Duke is our liaison to our Parks Department. Mr. Duke, do you have anything to add related to parks today for us?
Well, Mayor, I don't have anything to add. Troy is so terribly thorough. But we're working on some projects to try to find ways to work with private contractors to help us out to provide better services, more timely services, and hopefully a little cheaper for the folks. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for your hard work to support parks here in our town. Good things going on there. I know that was, music to Commissioner Elaine Powell's ears, who's our District 1 County Commissioner. She's on the line today, as is Commissioner Lee Altman. So thank y'all as county commissioners for your interest in our town, and we appreciate your being with us today. So with that, I want to move forward with our conversation, I don't see any questions out there in the chat box, but I would like to move forward with our, I guess you'd say, stars of the show today. We chose this topic related to Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools because guess what? School is starting this month. Man, it's flown by, and hopefully our education process will offer a much, much better school year for our students, more normal, if you will. If Gibby can get this COVID thing under control and keep it under control, no pressure there, Gibby. So I'd like to introduce some of the folks here. If I miss anybody that's joined us and you'd like to clarify your role, please do that. But I'm particularly happy to have our District 1 representative, Rhonda Cheek. She serves on the school board and has been our representative for some time. And we also have the chairman of the board, of the school board, Elise Dashew. Thank you, Elise. You're a good friend of Cornelius as well. And we appreciate your interest in our community. Aquanetta Edmond is the North Area Superintendent, I believe is your right title. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all you are doing to support our schools here in Cornelius. Aaron Joplin, I'm not sure what your title is, so we'll let you introduce yourself in a minute, and we'll work toward that. So let's start out. Rhonda, you want to start us out today, and then we'll move to Elise and get some staff input as well along the way.
Great. Do you want me to just work on some of the questions that was sent by staff?
Yeah, tell us.
Kind of jump right in.
Yeah, remind us when school starts, and how that's moving along as we move into the school year. Some of your I guess challenges for the year, and then we'll move into some of the questions that we've come up with for you, and I'm sure there'll be more to arrive on the chat box.
Well, despite the best efforts of our Representative John Bradford, we're still tied up with the General Assembly's calendar requirements that we don't start school until August 25th. So we start the Monday after that. I think it's August 29th is the correct date. Is that, wait?
We're actually on the 25th this
25th.
year.
Okay, get my dates. I get, yeah, that's right. It's actually 3.5 weeks. So despite we've tried to get the calendar switched a little bit, which then does unfortunately put us back where we're doing exams and first quarter work after the first of the year, unlike all the charter schools in our area that are able to start sooner. So we do appreciate John Bradford and the General Assembly people from Mecklenburg County trying to get that fixed, although they don't seem to be very amenable. We are very excited. We're going back in person this year, and that's a very big deal. And I know from Aaron and Aquanetta have been working so hard with our staff and our schools to make sure they're ready. Super excited. We do have a new school opening down in Huntersville on the site, Mayor Washam, where you may have gone to our middle school on the old site of J.M. Alexander that has been rebuilt and is now the North Language Academy. And it's a K-8 school. So that's going to be opening. And we do have kids coming from all over the Lake Norman area to that new school. So that's kind of where we are from a big standpoint. I think the big thing that everybody was probably having some questions about based on my emails actually haven't been that much, but would be what we decided on last Friday, which was based on the American Academy of Pediatrics, the governor's toolbox that said we should mask indoors, and then Ms. Harris and her recommendation about masking indoors. I'll tell you what, it was a tough decision for me as somebody who believes in personal choice and personal freedom, yet I made a lot of efforts to reach out to area physicians, some of our best known pediatricians in Cornelius, and the chief of infectious disease for pediatrics at Atrium System, and some other very well-informed people that know way more than me, even though I've been a nurse for 40 years. I reached out to them and said, hey, I know the Delta variant is different. And they said, yeah, really, basically, they've thrown the old data for children out the door because the Delta variant is behaving much differently in our young people. So I did support the mask mandate, so students will wear masks when they're indoors at our schools. That being said, it's not forever. And if things change, as I'm kind of hearing the Delta variant maybe peaking over the next 5 to 6 weeks, and then maybe level off, we can actually get the masks off again, which I think is best for kids. The big deal about why I supported it and our board recommended, or the staff recommended on our board supported this, and I don't want to speak for Ms. Dashu, but I think I'm kind of on target here, is we currently don't have any stipulation within the legislation that we can go to remote randomly. We can't just randomly say, we've got 3rd grade at Cornelius Elementary that's exposed, we need to send all 100 kids to remote. That does not exist. That flexibility does not exist this year. And the other thing, Ms. Harris can verify that anyone wearing a mask, if everyone's wearing a mask in a room and there is a close contact exposure, they do not need to quarantine outside the school. They get to stay in school. So for me, the primary reason that I supported this was because of the doctors that told me to do it, that told me that was the right thing. But mainly, I want to keep kids in school. And that is really the big thing, is if kids are wearing masks and there is an exposure, they do not have to go home and quarantine. So it's a tough situation and none of us like it, but I sure like it a lot more than what we were faced a year ago. So I'm happy to get kids back in the buildings, and that's where we are today. So I think that might be the biggie.
Yeah, I think that was, and I think you answered our next question out there as well. So, but Elise, would you have anything to add?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having us here. I'm just really happy to reconnect and look forward to when it's in person. So yeah, it will be, we're very, very busy in all the, back to school preparations, and this year on top of the regular, getting ready to go back to school, it's also making sure that our kids and staff are safe, because COVID is kind of resurging and with the new strain, and yet we are absolutely going to be in person. And so we've just really got to keep safety in mind in order to make that happen. And so I too supported the mask mandate. In fact, it sort of validated our decision over the weekend. It turned out Union Academy and a charter school just to the south of us, they started school last week. They ended up with optional masks. They had 8 students that were diagnosed with COVID in the first week, and that meant 100 students had to quarantine. So they're switching over to a mask mandate, and that's exactly what we want to avoid. We don't want to have to do quarantines, if at all, if those can be avoided. So we are waiting to get our test scores back from the end of grade testing, at the end of the previous year, anticipating that a lot of our kids really took a hit with the unfinished learning. So we're going to have a lot of work to do to rebuild. And we'll rebuild. Our kids are resilient, they will catch up. But we want to be absolutely laser focused, getting all distractions out of the way to support our kids and rebuilding. And we'll need community support in that regard as well. So what else? I think that's the gist of it. I'll also share that our board is doing some very intensive governance training right now. And we are revisiting our strategic plan to really kind of sharpen it up, because the stakes are just so high right now with bouncing back from COVID. And so you'll see us tightening up our goals, revisiting some of our targets, potentially based on where we are when we get our test scores back. And just basically getting more clear on the difference between our role and the superintendent's role, so we can set clear expectations and then get out of the way. I think that's going to be a game changer for student outcomes. And that would be my update, and happy to tackle the questions that you sent.
Yeah, let me jump down to a couple, particularly while Rhonda's on the line, just to make sure we address these properly. We've been concerned for some time up here in the north end of the county about the overcrowdedness of some of our schools, not all of them, but many of them, most of them. So what's going on in the near term? And also you can talk about some of the future years as well, what you may have to alleviate that. I know y'all talk about that a lot, but to our Cornelius audience, how can you make them feel better about that? Because they are concerned about it up here.
Yeah, I understand that. It looks like Rhonda's on the phone, so I'll take a first stab at that. We are working on an overall big picture capital needs assessment. And we know that in addition to capacity, the conditions of schools, that matters too. And I know that matters in a lot of the schools in Cornelius. So we're basically evaluating the condition of all of our facilities, as well as the overcrowding numbers. We're going to take a look at the numbers from the 20th day of this year. You know, attendance has fluctuated even more than usual because of COVID last year. We're expecting a lot of families that moved out of CMS into private schools and charters to come back, but we won't know for sure until we get our attendance numbers. And in early 2022, we will be back to you all and basically to the community for review and feedback on this draft community capital needs assessment. Rhonda, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I apologize. I had a hospital calling me. So yes, I think that we all know that we have overcrowding in numerous schools up here. We've done a lot to alleviate that over the last 15 years, but there's still much to do. And it's really just right now we're kind of up in the air with where we are number wise. And I think we'll see a big flux back. We did see some movement out of some of our schools. And Aquanetta, you may be able to speak to where we are with re-enrollment from some of our schools. I'm not sure if you have those numbers yet.
Well, I do. I have some of those numbers. And so, well, thank you everyone for inviting us here today and just allowing us to come before you and just sharing some of that information. And truly, when I look at a number of our schools, to the point, I think overall as a district, we're still missing as an overall district, roughly about 7,000 students. When I look across the Northwest learning community, we're looking at a dip at about 4,000 students. But when I look particularly across some of our schools, so for Cornelius Elementary, they're down roughly 30 students. And let's keep in mind, quite often when we're talking about our numbers, quite often the reality too is sometimes we don't have enrollment really peak until about mid-August before parents start to say, oh, wow, it is time for school, it's getting really close. We need to make sure that we get you enrolled and registered at your school. And so when we look, as I mentioned, at Cornelius, we're roughly down about 30 students, but JV Washington, we're up 8 students. And so we're holding steady there in a particular situation where enrollment has continued to be, pretty consistent. He's even anticipating additional enrollment just based on the time of year. And Huff continues to be a school that's just continuing to grow as well. We're over 2,500 students at Huff High School. I think we're at about 2,532 and where we are at Huff. And Bailey is the school that we are trying to navigate. Right now, we're down 50. So when we look at our numbers there, and that's a little surprising for, I said Bailey, I think I said Huff, but I meant Bailey. So when I look at that and we think about Bailey, it's usually one of our thriving schools that's continuously growing. Enrollment is always up. Over the past 2 years, at least, we've had that. And even in students coming back from the remote learning experience, it was probably one of our schools that had a high number of enrollment or students enrolled in the school setting. And of course, in this particular case, we're down about 52 students. But as you know, Principal Thomas is really working to make sure that we're getting our 6th graders back in. And so, of course, I knew too, as we thought about that, to take a look at what are our virtual options. Is that the piece that is hindering our growth and our development? But our virtual is minimal right now. For Cornelius, at last check, there were 2 students for the virtual option. And then, of course, for JV Washington, there were 3 students. For Bailey, there were 5 students for the virtual options, meaning parents have elected to take or partake in the virtual offerings for our 3-5 and our 6-8 students. And so we haven't been hit hard in that particular area where it's taking away from the schools, but I do believe there's a point to really think about as we think about Bailey and the 52 students. And again, it could be our 6th graders and it could be students still waiting to enroll, but that is a little bit of a point of concern.
I think the other thing too, I've heard a lot of, we had a lot of parents up here that decided to homeschool their children in K1, because until you're 7 years old, you do not have to register in North Carolina as a homeschool. I know at least 24 or more kids. I think we're going to, usually when we see that, you know, the big influx of kindergarten, we're going to see the probably largest, a much larger first grade contingent from up in this area. I know a lot of Davidson and Cornelius parents did keep their kindergartners home last year because they did not want to do virtual. So I think we're going to be seeing a good bit of that this year as well. So the numbers are just really in flux, and we're trying to remain flexible. We've asked the General Assembly for another year of flexibility with that so that we don't lose staffing based on numbers here and there changing. So that's kind of where we are.
And Rhonda, I'm glad you brought that point up, because we look at Davidson, and that was a number that I didn't bring up, but they're really growing. Whereas they're over the allotted positions. They're probably roughly about 50 students over what was initially projected, if not more. But the good thing is that parents are enrolling daily, is what I'm being told by the schools, that, you know, 2 to 3 parents are showing up daily to enroll or register their kids. And I do believe as we get closer to school starting, that there'll be a larger impact there. I do agree too that the mask mandate may also have an impact in regards to some of that, is what I'm hearing too, and some of the conversations that we're having with principals. But that's just where we are right now on today.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Now is the K-8 in Davidson, is this the first year they're actually back open? I mean, that they're open, aren't they? In that new, I can't remember when that started up.
So they've been open, but what's happening is the 8th grade. So we are finally a total K-8. So we built it K-6, added the 7th grade, and now we're finally total K-8. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that could be having some impact on Bailey then.
Absolutely. It may, but minimal, I would think. But yeah, that's supposed to be relieving Bailey, without a doubt.
That was one of the reasons that we did approve that K-8 expansion, because it would take about 100 new children out of Bailey a year. And that was something that we definitely needed at Bailey, since it is one of the larger middle schools in the state.
So
and the best, frankly.
So how do you solve the Huff problem? I mean, it's such a good school. It's such a popular school. People want to go there. They want to live in the district. How do you solve that without adding physical capacity?
So there's several things. Huff has 100 classrooms. So it's a larger school than, say, a North or Hopewell. There are other 2 schools in the area. So, you know, you think about with 100 classrooms, it's really not extremely overcrowded when you've got 2,500 kids there. So that's not too bad. You know, Woody, the problem we had when we opened JV Washam and we had to split things in Cornelius is nobody wanted to leave the school they were in because they loved it so much. And we're going to face that same challenge when we try to look again. We did move students about 3 years ago. We moved the students that were attending Bradley Middle School in Huntersville back over to Hopewell, and that caused a little bit, well, a lot of angst in the community. And if we do any adjustments of the Huff boundary down towards North Meck, that would probably cause a great deal of consternation. I would think that the Cornelius boundaries would be kind of safe from that. But right now, North Meck is actually fully utilized as well. So that's not kind of an open spot to move kids. So really, it's going to take us looking at where we are when everybody gets settled and where the dust settles at all the schools. And we are, I think, Ms. Dasher, we did talk a little bit about looking at a kind of a comprehensive high school boundary situation where we are. So we're not going to make piecemeal decisions. It's more of a comprehensive look. Mallard Creek is also about the same size as Huff. So, you know, we may be getting to the point where we need to think about another high school in this area, but we're not as overcrowded, unfortunately, as South Meck, Myers Park, Ardrey-Kell, who each have 3,000 students. So we were not the priority there. But what I would say is 2,500 students in a 100 classroom building is not too bad.
Okay. Thank you. At least there's
But it is the best high school in North Carolina.
And it does have an Olympic bronze medalist.
Olympic bronze medalist from Huff. Yes, we are super proud of her.
Brown.
Yep, Erica Brown, and they're super proud. And we also have a lot of we had a state championship swim team from Huff. The ladies swim and dive won the states, even in the craziest of years. And super proud that was, I pretty much fell on the sword to my board and said, we got to let those kids get back to swimming in the meets. I mean, I really did. It was something that was, as Miss Dashu can tell you, when she said, I will support you on this, I literally cried like a baby. I was so happy. So that was probably one of my biggest things last year, was to really push to get all of our kids back in all the extracurriculars, because it adds such a rich dimension to their high school experience. And I thought it was really necessary last year. So I'm so proud of all of my staff and principals at all of our schools in North Mecklenburg. They're amazing, just amazing.
I totally agree. I think we're very fortunate to have great schools up here, particularly in Cornelius, that I can speak of. And I know most of the principals and spend time at those schools every chance I get. So, you know, while you're on the topic of athletes, I think a question going along with that is, would vaccinations ever become mandatory for certain sports or curricular activities? Do you see that on the horizon?
That's not something we've discussed at all. And our athletic, especially the athletic side of that, not the other extracurriculars, but the athletic side of that is really kind of dictated by the North Carolina High School Sports Association. So I don't see that as a thing. We aren't really talking about that.
Gotcha. So we talked a little bit about, I guess, the school in our town that we have the most concern with from a physical standpoint is Cornelius Elementary. So are there any plans to upfit that or do anything to make it a little more serviceable for our students in the near future?
That school will be one of my 3 top priority schools when it comes to the capital needs assessment. And I believe that should the capital needs assessment be starting soon, I think Cornelius will naturally fall into that because of some of the age of the school. It's got a rich history, which means it's been there a really long time. Also Coolwood and some of the Huntersville Elementary School is also considered pretty aged. They're seasoned veteran schools is what they keep calling me the seasoned veteran on the school board. I'll call them the seasoned veteran schools. So that is definitely one. Miss Edmonds can kind of go into detail, but I will tell you, we descended upon that school about a year ago with mold and moisture remediation, and just have really worked very hard to improve the quality of the facility and its offerings.
And really, to be honest, we've done the bipolar oxygenation project that we committed to. And so that work has already been done. And from what I'm being told, as I check in with the principal, that's going well. Additionally, a new roof has occurred. So the new roofing piece has been installed. That took place over the summer as well. We knew how critical that was, as you all heard about the leaks and the different things that were going on, really having that additional impact with the mold and the things that we were discovering. And then we also had painting. So painting, we've got the facility painted and some additional updates. I think there was one more bullet that I can't call off the top of my head right now, but the biggies were indeed the bipolar oxygenation opportunity, along with roofing and painting occurring this summer. So they're feeling really good about where we are. That we've been able to navigate some of those challenges that we had previously. And of course, we'll continue to monitor the situation.
If, we could probably work on a tour of the facility since it's had some renovations work for you, Mr. Washam, and any of your town board or Andrew, your manager. If you guys wanted to come over and take a look at what's gone on and how they've worked to improve the facility itself, that would be something we'd be happy to host.
I would love to do that. And, I do hear from your parents from time to time as they get concerns. You folks have been very responsive to that. I'm pleased with your reaction to fixing it, if you will. But yeah, it's good for us to be communicating on all issues related to schools in this town, because a lot of folks don't understand that, we don't run the schools, but we're certainly interested, and we hear from our citizens that do attend those schools. So that would be a good thing. And I'm sure many of our commissioners would like to join in and get a firsthand view as well. So that would be a really good thing. So anyway, but we
Getting
appreciate
that roof moved up in the projects to this summer was really the key to everything. And then the other issue that I would bring up is we're gonna need some prayer and patience from some of the town residents, because the Bailey Road construction project is not going to be finished by the time school starts. I think that, Tyler, you can probably speak to that, but the DOT says they're not going to be done with the improvements to that road. And in 3.5 weeks, we just have a whole lot of parents and student drivers that will be descending upon Bailey Road. And I know that the staff is working with your staff to try to mitigate those things. We're getting the message out to ride buses as much as possible, but we do know that there are going to be some transportation challenges, which may lead to phone calls, that we're going to all try to work together to try to reduce that. But the messages are already going out from school staff to parents.
Yeah, we
On
appreciate.
another.
Yeah, we have had some issues in coordination, with school staff and our police department as events take place, testing and so forth. So any communications that can occur at the local level with our police department will make a huge difference. And I think y'all get that. But we've got to make sure that's going on. So Tyler, touch on the Bailey Road project and see how we're going to help us understand how we're going to manage our way through that.
Yeah, so we're as Rhonda said, we're working with CMS. So our project unfortunately got delayed by a utility that we did not know was there when we started. So it is getting moved right now. Once I finish here, I'm actually running out there to do a final coordination meeting to make sure everything is out of the way and in the right spot. So hopefully that'll be done this week. The utility work will be done this week, and the contractor will be back going full blast on this project. And we've talked to them about school starting, some of the events that are coming up as well before school starts. So we're doing everything we can to try to minimize traffic impacts due to the construction. We know those, especially those first couple of weeks, are usually a little tough for traffic as people are learning and learning the process of drop off and pick up. So we'll work with the contractor, work with CMS as best we can to get the impacts as minimal as possible. And hopefully our project will be done by the end of September. That's what we're looking at right now.
And we actually have a meeting. I apologize. Sorry. We actually have a meeting this afternoon with I think Tyler's involved, a number of the Cornelius team members and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools as well, to really try to lay the groundwork and have a real strategic plan around the entry or re-entry of students and parents near that area. And so, of course, I'll definitely be sure to make sure that we provide an update, but we are meeting and hoping for a very productive outcome.
Great. And we're happy to help you communicate through our town resources as well, just to get the word out. So, that is a magnificent project that the town is actually paying for on state roads, which comes out of our bond funding that happened related to transportation. There's a couple bottlenecks as it relates to getting parents and students to our schools on Bailey Road. That's one of them at that intersection. The other one is at the curve on Bailey. So Wayne, why don't you touch on what's coming if you're out there? If you tell us what's coming with some new construction on Bailey Road and give us an idea of that timing.
Sure thing, Mayor. Appreciate that opportunity. One of our funded projects is a Bailey Road project. This is down closer to the sharp curve headed toward US 21. We have a funded project that will extend that out onto 21, make that a much safer part of Bailey Road. It will also keep traffic from going into the neighborhood area and just make that a much better situation for traffic flow and safety. Right now, that is scheduled for 2023. It's still on target, and luckily it hasn't moved. right-of-way utilities, and luckily there's very few utilities there, so that's a great thing. But it's moving, and we're very happy about that.
Yeah, Aquanet, I just want to make sure you knew about that. It was, it's on the horizon, and I do think it'll make a difference. So, so with that, let's go to other questions from our attendees here. Commissioners, do you have anything you'd like to add to our school conversation, or really anything else, but particularly our school conversation?
Well, Mayor, I'd like to hear from Mr. Joplin, get his point of view. He's been overshadowed by those lovely women. And I would like to hear what he has to say. I love his haircut.
There you go. Okay, Aaron.
Thank you so much for the compliment. I follically challenged. I'm Aaron Joplin. I'm Executive Director for the Northwest Learning Community. Certainly, I'm here to support Aquanetta. I am her right-hand person, I guess you could say, and certainly love working with the schools up in the Cornelius area, and also work on producing our newsletter that goes from our office to the town to keep you informed of happenings in the area at the schools. Certainly would echo the thoughts that they have today, and don't really have a whole lot to add to the conversation, as they have covered many of the topics, but certainly would answer any questions if you have them for me.
Thank you, Aaron. I want to touch base on one thing, which is near and dear to our hearts in Cornelius, and I want to compliment our Park and Rec management, as well as CMS, for working together so well with the facilities. And I guess one question is, you know, we were aware that we were sort of, you were sort of shut down in the past. So Aquanetta and Troy, if you will comment on the potential of opening those facilities back up for town functions and town programming.
So I am glad to say, when we think about community and school use agreements, a lot of that, I think an enrollment form and application process will start on August the 25th. So our goal is to continue that great work that we've had for the years that we've had it. And so with school and deciding on all that we'll be navigating and bringing students back and everything that we will have to tackle, we decided that it might be better to just delay, so that we didn't have the Parks and Rec piece coming in at the same time in which we're trying to regain our students back into our facilities. And so one of the things that we do have out on the table is that the application process remains the same. It's just that we pushed the date back by about a week or two in order for Troy and team to apply for those options. And so they'll still be there. We just needed to make some shifts in the dates.
Well, very, very valuable to our town. And, you know, our expectations are pretty high related to those. Where do we have those joint programming opportunities, Troy?
So Bailey Middle School is the key one. And fortunately, we were able to go back in there for this summer to do summer day camp when CMS did not have a summer school program there. So we definitely thank CMS for getting us back in there. That allowed us to pretty much double the number of children we could accommodate for day camp, because we were stuck at Town Hall last year. So that's very good. And then JV Washam Elementary School is the second one. Both have full-size gymnasiums. We hope this fall and winter that we can do our traditional youth basketball program that serves about 900 kids in the Lake Norman area altogether. I know CMS has a lot to figure out, but we have had open lines of communication the whole time, and hopefully we'll be in there shooting some hoops this fall and winter. One other good thing, we also had access for the first time out at Huff High School to utilize their tennis courts this summer, which allowed us to help spread out a bit more all the kids that participate in that. We can get upwards of 40 children playing tennis, kind of hard to do on just 3 courts out at Bailey Road Park. So by having access to Huff High, we were able to spread out a little bit more and allow the kids to have fun and be safe. So looking forward to hopefully getting a little more access there too down the road. Yeah,
we work together very well with the Hoyt Wilhelm ball fields as well. I
That's
think that
right.
some joint arrangements with the schools on that, if I don't remember that properly.
On the exterior side, I was going to put the plug in that if Cornelius Elementary School is rebuilt, the town needs to discuss about the potential for an upgraded gym facility, much like JV Washam Elementary.
We would love that. Absolutely. So with that, commissioners, you have anything to add before we adjourn today?
I do. Hopefully, we'll have a relaunch on the MEAC committee. I was enjoying our service on that. And, you know, I know it's way down on your list of everything else going on, but hopefully we can get that relaunched as we get back to more normal, maybe first of the year.
For sure. I know. And Rhonda had to slip off to a business meeting right now, but I know she is eager to get that going again.
Yeah.
Super.
And then I had 2 questions for Gibby. What is the current status of COVID testing? Are we still looking at PCR? I saw some rumors that that's gone away. What is the testing du jour?
Yeah, testing is still available and still free of charge. There aren't as many. Excuse me?
Which test is preferred these days?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. To be perfectly safe that your test is accurate, a PCR test is still the preferred test. But in many cases, we're using rapid tests. They give false positives and false negatives occasionally, but they are being used most often. And as you know, there are home test kits now available as well. So my suggestion is if you think you've been exposed or are having any kind of symptoms, get a test. It doesn't matter what kind. And if you're not sure about the test results, then follow up with a PCR.
Yeah, I got some international travel concerns.
If you're traveling internationally, I'd suggest the PCR.
Okay. And then the last question, we don't hear much talk about natural immunity. I know Commissioner Sisson has a big comment about that since she is a COVID survivor and gives convalescent plasma every 4 weeks. So, but we don't hear much about that.
That's probably the main reason for that is the antibody tests that are out there are not specific. So all they'll tell you is whether you have any antibodies at all. It doesn't tell you the level of antibody coverage. The type of screening that she's having is very specific and lets her know, exactly how much antibody she's got. And the other concern that we have these days is how effective those types of antibodies are against the Delta variant. So we're, for those reasons, that's probably why you're not hearing about it very much. And at this point, the vaccine is the preferred approach.
Thank you. Commissioner Bill, did you have something?
Yeah, just real quick, Mayor, I just wanted to thank everyone that joined us and presented today. These are important topics and ones that are quality of life impactful. So appreciate all the work and help with the town of Cornelius. Thank you.
Absolutely. We work well together, and let's keep that up. We're happy to have conversations, and now that we can maybe possibly meet and have conversations face to face, that might be even better. So we're really looking forward to that as we move into the future. Our going forward with our Connecting Cornelius Coffee Chats, there will not be one in September because of the holiday. We'll be right on top of that holiday. And so we're going to not schedule one in September, but we will start back up for the remainder of the year in October. Our hope and prayer is that we can do that in person and virtually as well. So more to come on that. Danny is verifying some potential sites that we could actually gather that will have the audiovisual support that we need to get this done. So anyway, it'd be great to get back together, but it's worked very well. We're having high numbers of attendees. This session, as all of our sessions, are recorded out on Facebook, on the town's Facebook page. So just because you can't schedule to watch these when they are occurring, you can watch them for days beyond that. So once we check our count after several days, we're looking at 200, 250 people that tune in. So hopefully we can increase that number, and tell your friends and neighbors if they happen to miss and want to be part of this conversation or get part of this information, that it is being recorded and it will be out there on the town's Facebook page. So with that, Manager Grant, did I leave anything out? You have anything to add, sir?
No, sir. I appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you. It was a great session. Thank you, CMS. Thank you, Gibby Harris. Those that are guests, we appreciate your willingness to provide us some time this morning, and we'll see you around town, everybody. Have a great day and a great rest of the
us.
Thanks for having
now.
us. We appreciate
Mayor,
it.
Everyone.
And Mayor
Thank you.
Washam, I'd love to come back in October if I could. I just need to get that on my calendar.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you,
All
Lisa.
right. Thanks. Take care.
Bye, everybody.